Thus, when Ezekiel first prophesied, Jerusalem had not yet fallen. The exiles already in Babylon therefore clung to the hope that it would endure and that they could eventually return to their homeland. This was not to be their Salaki. This was not to be, and it became Ezekiel's task to bring them God's message of doom. This would not be easy for Ezekiel's hearers, were rebellious, impotent, and stiff-hearted. Ezekiel 2, 3, and 4. And just to land back off that, because when you take the time about it, it was all kind of wickedness going on in Ezekiel's day. I believe in the book of Ezekiel 8 and let me check that out, because I think it's like 8 and 14 or something. It talks about the women were weeping. Right. It talks about the women were weeping for Tammuz. So, and then they said they were worshiping, I think, the sun and everything. Like it was a multitude of things going on, and these was Israelites. You know what I mean? Um, it says rebellious, impotent, and stiff-hearted. Ezekiel chapter 2, verse 3 and 4. But the Lord encouraged him not to fear them. Moreover, Yahweh gave him the words he was to say. He symbolized this by giving Ezekiel a roll of a book. That is a scroll with words written on both sides. He commanded Ezekiel to eat this roll and go and speak unto the house of Israel. Yahweh addressed the prophet as Son of Man, a title used 93 times in the book. It emphasizes Ezekiel's identification with the human race and the distance separating man from Yahweh. Now, I don't know about that. And then it's referenced in Psalms 8 and 4, because you got to remember the Most High, well, the Messiah, or Mashiach, Yahweh Shai, he was referenced as Son of Man too. Later, however, it would be a Masonic title. Well, and it's referenced in Matthew 26 and 64. The symbolic significance of eating the scroll was that Ezekiel should assimilate Yahweh's message into his inner, inmost being. It was to become a part of him. Bam, so that's the spirit. This would set him apart from the rebellious people to whom Yahweh was sending him. Self-separation was absolutely essential if he was to be a presence for Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai among them. The eating of Yahweh's words also signified Ezekiel's responsibility to communicate it accurately as Yahweh directed, for he was Yahweh's messenger. Go speak unto the house of Israel, commanded Yahweh. His message would not always be palatable to them, but whatever their reaction, he was to persevere so they would know that there had been a prophet among them. Ezekiel 2 and 5. If Ezekiel tried to remain silent, he would discover that he was compelled to speak, which Jeremiah went through. Jeremiah 20 and 9. Unlike the prophets, we do not speak by divine inspiration. Well, I mean, that's what, this Esau's little book was saying, but I mean, when you really in the camp and you really seeing, you could actually see when the spirit is so amazing, because, like I said, that's how you know you're really following the true power, because at the end of the day, like, brothers will sometimes go out with a lesson and the spirit of change, and then you go watch, like, I'm probably like most, or I'm gonna say most brothers, of course we all follow the apostles and elders, but then you got different camps that you might like to, because the spirit works with some people. Some people speak better than others and whatnot. And anyhow, like I said, they can have one lesson, and then topic might switch. If you're in a camp, you understand that, and then long story short, you can go check out these other videos, and it's be like they all correlate. You know what I mean? It's just deep. So I don't agree with what he just said, or whoever wrote this. However, we have been given access to the nourishment of Yahweh's complete revelation, which produces mature faith. They reference multiple scriptures: Ephesians 4, 11 through 16, Colossians 1 and 9, and 3 and 16, 1 Peter 2 and 2. Yahweh's written word also provides the message we proclaim to a sinful world. They reference John 17, 17 through 18, and 20 and 21, Philippians 2, verses 15 through 16, and Colossians 4, verses 3 to 6. Like Ezekiel, we are expected to just Yahweh's words, make them part of ourselves, and pass them on faithfully to those who need them. I agree with that. The command obeyed. Ezekiel did as the Lord commanded, so I opened my mouth and he caused me to eat that roll. The wording implies passive submission. The prophet opened his mouth and Yahweh took the initiative in feeding him his truth. This is the kind of receptivity he desires from all his children. And that's the truth. Because at the end of the day, like Paul mentioned many a times, Paul says, I'm a servant, I'm a slave. You know what I mean? It's not our will being done. We suppose that once we die to the flesh, we serve, you know, the Most High, Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shah. So it ain't about us no more. And, I mean, when you get into that realization, it's easier doing the work. Because, I can't speak for other brothers. Like I say, I can speak for myself. At the end of the day, I ain't gonna say battle with that. Sometimes that's why it's very important to understand and discern when the Spirit's speaking to you and what to do and what not to do. You know what I mean? Because if he dealing with you, he might let you bump your head, that chastisement, and you survive it, or you know. But what I mean, at the same time, if you had just followed or did what you supposed to did from the get go, you wouldn't have had to been chastised. You know. If we desire to know His will, He will surely reveal it. Even as the Lord fed him, He directed Ezekiel to fill his stomach with the scroll that He was giving him. This figure of speech implies that Ezekiel was not merely to taste Yahweh's words, but to digest them completely. It was to nourish him and become the means of spiritual development. He himself would be changed by the message he would eventually give his people. Too often we merely taste Yahweh's truth and then decide whether to swallow it or spit it out. I just said it. We digest what we like and disregard the rest. This selective approach also affects our ministry to others. We hypocritically teach them to practice what we ourselves are unwilling to do. Yahweh by Yashem Yahweh Shai is pleased only with service based on wholehearted submission. Ezekiel testified that when he had eaten the scroll, it tasted as sweet as honey in his mouth. This reaction was like that of David, Psalms 19 and 10, Jeremiah 15, verse 16, and Apostle John, Revelations 10, verse 9 through 10. The sweetness was due not to the content, much of which was unpleasant, Ezekiel 2 and 10, but to its source, Yahweh by Yashem Yahweh Shai himself. Ezekiel would also experience bitterness because of the nature of his message. Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 14, as with John, but he had pleasure in knowing it was Yahweh's message. A difficult mission, verse 4, and he said unto me, Son of man, go get thee unto the house of Israel, and speak my words unto them. Verse 5, excuse me, Salakia, for thou art not sent to a people of a strange speech and of a hard language, but to the house of Israel. So he wasn't sent to, heathens or foreigners. He was sent to the children of Israel. Verse 6, not too many people of a strange speech and of a hard language whose words thou canst not understand. Surely had I sent them, Salaki, surely had I sent thee to them, they would have hearkened unto thee. And that's amazing, you know what I'm saying? Because showing you what that, that's how, I have to have people buck up. I even know some people that said, oh, it's just us. You know what I mean? But when you take the time to really look at these different nationalities, like all Israelites kind of do the same stuff. They stiff-headed, they hard-headed, they live certain conditions, they target it, you know what I mean? But, and that's cold game because, like I said, the most I could leave somebody stuck in that situation and never knowing it to the end. You get what I'm saying? You know, like how he did Pharaoh. He allowed the Pharaoh to release the Israelites only to have them go chase him. Verse 7, but the house of Israel will not hearken unto thee, for they will not hearken unto me, for all the house of Israel are impudent and hard-hearted. And that is back to what I was speaking on in Exodus about how, he said how he knew they wasn't going to follow the law, statutes, and commandments. And like I said, I want to find it, but like I said, I don't got that much time. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put it in the post notes. The mission stated, Ezekiel 3 and 4, now that Ezekiel had received Yahweh's words, he was instructed concerning what he was to do with them. The Lord said, Son of man, go get thee unto the house of Israel and speak with my words unto them. Ezekiel was called to speak specifically to one segment of the house of Israel, those who were in exile in Babylon. However, the visions he received and communicated to them concerned the whole nation. Moreover, the captives to whom Ezekiel spoke were typical of all Israelites. Although they were captives, they still harbored the hope that Babylon's campaign against Jerusalem would fall and that they would soon be free. Ezekiel had to disabuse them of this notion, which you can read in Ezekiel 4, um, 6 and 1 through 7, chapter 7, 25, and chapter 13, verse 16. In addition, the captives had not repented but were guilty of the same sins as their compatriots in Jerusalem. So as Ezekiel addressed them, he addressed all Israel.